Well, good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor and here are the headlines. On Teachers' Day today, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu to confer national awards for 2017 to 45 recipients, calls the teachers nation builders. Prime Minister asks teachers to bring out inherent strength of students during interaction with the awardees. Committee headed by West Bengal Chief Secretary to probe cause of collapse of a section of a 50-year-old bridge in South Kolkata. One person killed, over 2 dozen injured in the incident. Chief Minister announces compensation. President and Prime Minister express condolences. "18 more killed in rain-related incidents in Uttar Pradesh, taking toll since Saturday to 44. More rain predicted in several parts of the state today. 26 out of 30 districts in Odisha on alert following heavy rains. All women bench to hold court in a Supreme Court for the second time after 2013. Justices R. Bhanumati and Indira Banerjee to preside over hearings in the Apex Court today. And Imran Khan's close ally Dr. Arif Alvi elected new president of Pakistan. In a first jolt to the newly appointed Prime Minister, Khan's advisor on parliamentary affairs resigns following corruption case against him. Today is National Teachers' Day and the day marked to honour the contribution of teachers to the society. It is also the birth anniversary of former President of India, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, who was a staunch believer of value-based education, a scholar and above all a teacher. And on the occasion today, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu will give away the National Awards for Teachers at a function in the national capital. The National Award to Teachers 2017 will be conferred to 45 awardees to give a public recognition to meritorious teachers working in primary, middle and secondary schools. And on the occasion, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu took to Twitter to pay homage to Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. He said that his contribution to the field of education is incomparable. He said that teachers are nation builders who shape the caliber and character of children. And early on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the winners of the National Teachers Awards at his residence. The Prime Minister commended the dedication of the teachers towards their profession, which he said has improved the quality of education in the country. He also urged the awardees to work towards bringing out the inherent strength of students, especially those from poor and rural background. And during the interaction, the awardees narrated inspirational stories in transforming their schools into centers of learning and excellence. The teachers will be conferred the award for 2017 on Wednesday. And this year, the HRD Ministry revised the guidelines for the selection of teachers for the national awards. And under the revised guidelines, all regular teachers were eligible to apply, and the minimum 15 years of service had been done away with. The teachers got the chance to directly apply and nominate themselves for the award. Self-nominations from teachers were invited online.
सर, मेरे को तो ये लगता है कि ये चयन प्रक्रिया जो हुआ है ये बहुत बेहतर है और ये बहुत पहले से हो जाना था। इसमें अभी जितने भी 45 टीचर हैं उनको मैं 45 रत्न के रूप में मानता हूँ। कारण इसके पीछे ये है कि ये एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी है टोटल ऑनलाइन। हमने खुद ही अपना नॉमिनेशन किया है।
हमने एज ए हेडमास्टर सबसे पहले ये देखा कि कैसे गर्ल्स एजुकेशन को बढ़ाया जाए। इस पर हमने हेडमास्टर के रूप में पहले कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन किया। उससे कम्युनिटी के जो सबसे निचले तबके के लोग थे, वहाँ अधिकतर मजदूर किस्म के लोग थे, तो उन लोगों से संपर्क किया। संपर्क करने से ये हुआ कि उनका विश्वास हमें जगा और छात्राओं को वो भेजना शुरू की।
ईच एंड एवरी पर्सन आर वेरी एनर्जेटिक और सभी ने अपने क्षेत्र में यूनिक अलग ही काम किया है। और यदि इस सारे काम को हाईलाइट किया जाए तो मुझे लगता है एक प्रेरणा पूरे समाज और देश को मिलेगी, जिसमें लोग कुछ और आगे आके काम करना चाहेंगे।
On to some other news now. Vice President and Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu has pitched for reforms in the reservation system. In an interview to news agency PTI, Vice President Naidu said that there is unrest and unease in sections of communities entitled to quota benefits, as they believe that only a few among them are getting the quota benefits. Stressing that reservations should not be tinkered with, he called for equitable and proportional representation of different castes based on population. Vice President Naidu also asserted that reservation that has been guaranteed should be there. The ruling NDA government had appointed a commission last year to examine the subcategorization of almost 5,000 castes in the central list of OBCs. This is to ensure more equitable distribution of reservations in central government jobs and educational institutions.
There is a need to move towards ensuring proportional representation, inclusive development of all groups, especially those which have till now has been underrepresented. Mr. Prime Minister, former Prime Ministers and all the parliamentarians sitting here, my appeal to everybody is that we must see to it that the benefits of reservation reach each and every section. Each and every section, for whatever registration you want or changes you want to bring in, this should be done. Because people's aspirations are very high, expectations are high, communication is there, people are seeing what is happening and all. So I hope the backward class, the scheduled caste, people of different communities, sub-communities, they also get justice in the course of time, and we all move in that direction.
In an interview on the occasion of completing 1 year in office, the Vice President said that restoring the prestige of the upper house is his immediate priority. He called for reframing of rules to take care of erring members and suggested stricter provisions in the anti-defection law. He said that he handled 2 key events in his 1-year tenure that included the disqualification of Sharad Yadav and a notice by the Congress-led opposition to impeach Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra, which he rejected within days of receiving it. On to some other news now. Indian Railways is expecting to save 13,000 crore rupees per annum in fuel bill by its massive rail electrification drive. Minister of State for Railways Manoj Sinha said this on Tuesday. Sinha, after the electrification of railways is completed, said that the actual savings due to initiatives in energy procurement has so far been 7,504 crore rupees.
Indian Railways is taking several concrete steps to check energy consumption. One of these measures is rail electrification, with special focus on solar energy. Addressing a conference on e-mobility in Indian Railways, Union Minister Manoj Sinha informed that 4,000 kilometers of railway track were electrified in 2017-18, while in 2018-19, the figure was 6,000 kilometers, accounting for substantial savings in fuel costs annually.
इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन के गति को हमने आगे बढ़ाया है। कई बार दोहराया गया कि 4,000 रूट किलोमीटर हमने किया, अगले साल 6,000 करेंगे, उसके आगे 10,000 करेंगे और 4-5 वर्ष में लगभग ये इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन का काम हम पूरा कर लेंगे।
Underscoring the significance of the railways, Chief Executive Officer of Niti Aayog Amitabh Kant said that shrinking market share of railways is not good for the country.
I'm really delighted that Indian Railways is partnering with Niti Aayog in this unique initiative. Because one of our great worry has been that the share of Indian Railways, the market share of rail sector has been falling significantly due to the inability of the rail system to carry the growing traffic. And it has been yielding its share to the road sector, which is not good for the country. So it's not a correct thing. And for India, if it has to grow in a very sustainable manner, railways have to play a very critical role. Its share must grow. And the pace of development of railways infrastructure must grow at rapid pace to meet the demands of Indian economy.
Indian Railways has taken several measures to replace diesel locomotives with electric engines. Special attention is also being paid to dedicated freight corridor and consumer services. Arvind Kumar Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And the government has approved a proposal to increase the wages of artisans by over 36%. The MSME Ministry has approved a proposal by the Khadi and Village Industries Commission to increase the wages from 5.5 rupees per hank to 7.5 rupees per hank. The proposal will come into effect from 15th of August, and with the increase in wages, an artisan will now earn 202 rupees per day, inclusive of incentives if he makes 20 hanks in a day. Presently, most of the artisans spend more than 20 hanks per day. And the 15th Finance Commission, led by Chairman N.K. Singh, will be making a 4-day visit to Tamil Nadu from today. The Commission will hold meetings with the Chief Minister, ministers and other state officials in Chennai, and detailed presentations will be made on the finances of the state government. Ahead of the meeting with the Chief Minister, the Commission will meet the economists of the region to understand the macroeconomic issues and peculiar issues specific to the state. The Commission will also hold meetings with the leaders of various political parties, representatives of trade and industry, urban local bodies and Panchayati Raj institutions to understand the issues concerning the state. It will be the second South Indian state that the Commission will visit after the state of Kerala. And on to the other big story of the day. History will repeat in the Supreme Court today as an all-women bench comprising Justices R. Bhanumati and Indira Banerjee will hold court today. Now, this will be only the second time after 2013 that an all-women bench will assemble in the apex court. The Supreme Court, for the first time in its history, has 3 sitting women judges. And since its inception in 1950, the Supreme Court never had more than 2 sitting women judges. Justice Indira Banerjee is only the 8th woman to become Supreme Court judge. The 3 women justices are among the 25 judges of the top court, which had sanctioned a strength of 31 judges. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break here. We'll be back with more news.
Standing at the center of Quwwatul Islam Mosque inside the historic Qutub complex, this iconic iron pillar gives us a glimpse of Delhi's tryst with the kingdom and its supremacy. This iconic pillar bears an inscription written in a later form of Brahmi script of Ashokan time. The inscription on the pillar talks about the victory of a great king, defeating his enemies from the expanse of areas between what is now Bengal to Punjab. The pillar is 7 meters tall and is 1 meter below the ground with diameter of 48 centimeters at the foot, getting slender at the top, measuring 29 centimeters. Weighing approximately 6.5 tons, the pillar was manufactured by forged welding and has not rusted ever since. As per the popular folklores, Delhi's Rajput king Anandpal Tomar gave this land a name based on this pillar. The story goes that King Anandpal Tomar was told by a sage that this pillar is immovable and rested on a hood of a serpent king, Vasuki. Out of sheer curiosity, Tomar decided to check the ground beneath the pillar, and surprisingly, he indeed found the pillar resting on the head of a serpent king. In an awe of what he has seen, Tomar bowed to the land and ordered to install the pillar back. The pillar could be fixed back firmly and remained loose, dhila as we call it in Hindi. It was here Delhi got the first variant of his name, Delhi, the land whose soil is loose.
Welcome back after the break. A big story from West Bengal where rescue operations are underway as several people are feared trapped after a bridge collapsed in Kolkata yesterday. A 20-meter deck of the Majera Bridge caved in on Tuesday, killing one biker who fell into the wedge as the deck split into two. 21 people are also injured in the collapse and 2 are said to be critical. Now, several vehicles were also crushed in the collapse. The 50-year-old bridge is in the crowded Alipur area, caved in over rail tracks at around 4:45 p.m. during rush hour, and the portion of the bridge collapsed on the canal flowing under it, averting a major disaster. And Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has announced a compensation of 5 lakh rupees for the next of kin of the dead and 50,000 rupees for each of the injured. A committee headed by Chief Secretary of West Bengal will be finding out the cause of the collapse. And in a tweet, President Nath Kovind said, and I quote him now, "Sorry to learn of the partial collapse of the bridge in Kolkata. My thoughts and prayers are with the bereaved families and with those injured in the tragic incident." And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also termed the incident as deeply unfortunate and hoped for the speedy recovery of the injured.
ফিরাদ হাকিম আরবান ডেভেলপমেন্ট মিনিস্টার এবং শোভন চ্যাটার্জি ফায়ার ব্রিগেড মিনিস্টার এবং কলকাতা কর্পোরেশনের মেয়র তাকে স্পটে পাঠানো হয়েছে এবং চিফ সেক্রেটারি নিজেও কথা বলেছেন হেলথ সেক্রেটারি থেকে শুরু করে প্রত্যেকের সাথে, যাতে সঙ্গে সঙ্গে সমস্ত রিলিফের কাজটা ইমিডিয়েট রেস্কিউ অপারেশনটা করা হয়। কীভাবে রেস্কিউ করবে, কোথায় হসপিটালে নিয়ে যাবে, তার সমস্তটাই সরকার দেখছে। এবং এটা আমি বলবো যে একটা ঘটনা ঘটেছে, দুর্ঘটনা ঘটেছে, কেন ঘটেছে, কী ঘটেছে সেটা পরে করবো, আগে দেখতে হবে, সেটা তদন্ত করে নিশ্চয়ই দেখা হবে।
On to some other news now. President Nath Kovind is in Bulgaria on the second leg of his three-nation visit, and he is the 5th Indian president to visit Bulgaria and the first in 15 years. In a special gesture, Bulgarian President Radev and the First Lady of Bulgaria received President Nath Kovind at the entrance of the hotel where the Indian delegation is staying. President Radev spoke to President Kovind of his admiration for the Indian culture, specifically mentioning Buddhism and yoga, the Gita and the Mahabharata. President Nath Kovind also tweeted, "India-Bulgaria friendship is very special. Our links are old and ancient. There are similarities in our cultures and deep and abiding connections as well." He also praised the Sofia University for doing stellar work for 35 years in spreading awareness about the Indian culture. President Nath Kovind later in the evening addressed the Indian community in Bulgaria, saying that the Indian diaspora in Bulgaria constitutes a living bridge between the two nations. From Bulgaria, President Nath Kovind will fly to the Czech Republic on the final leg of his three-nation trip on 6th of September. On to some other news. In a major boost to Make in India initiative, wings of the American F-16 fighter jets will now be produced in India. American aerospace company Lockheed Martin entered with an agreement with the Tata Advanced Systems Limited for the production and has offered to move its entire F-16 manufacturing base to India. The production is not contingent on India selecting the F-16 for the Indian Air Force. However, India is yet to make a final decision on it, and talks on the matter are expected to be held soon. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary James Mattis will be arrive in the national capital, Delhi, today for the first ever 2+2 dialogue between India and the U.S. India and the U.S. will solidify their global strategic partnership in the inaugural 2+2 dialogue on Thursday. Both the sides will focus on significantly boosting military ties and ironing out differences over India's defense engagement with Russia and crude oil import from Iran. News reports suggest that the two sides will also seek to finalize an agreement on encrypted defense technologies, deliberate on ways to boost counter-terror cooperation, look for increasing engagement between their navies in the Indo-Pacific region, and try to resolve tariff-related issues. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and Defense Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will hold the twice-postponed talks with the visiting leaders. Chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff will also be part of the U.S. delegation. And the focus of the talks will be to lift the strategic engagement between the two nations to a whole-of-government approach covering a wide range of areas of cooperation. India will also try to sensitize the U.S. that any cut in the import of Iranian oil in compliance with the U.S. sanctions may impact the country's overall economy as the crude oil from that country is much cheaper. News from Kerala now. The state has been put on high alert for the next 3 weeks following more deaths due to leptospirosis or rat fever. Cases of various kinds of fevers have been reported in the state after flood waters receded. 7 deaths due to rat fever have been reported on Tuesday, taking the total death toll in the last 3 days alone to 19. The State Health Minister K.K. Shailaja chaired an emergency meeting and said that the public need not panic as the situation is under control. The Health Minister has also directed to form Arogya Sena covering 20 houses in all the panchayats to ensure the chlorination of all the water bodies in their respective limits. According to the Kerala Health Services, there were 115 confirmed cases of leptospirosis and 12 dengue cases. 38 people with suspected symptoms of dengue are undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, the state government has decided to do away with the state-sponsored festivals such as the Film Fete and tourism carnivals for a year and utilize those funds for the rehabilitation work. And in the state of Uttar Pradesh, 18 more people have been killed in rain-related mishaps, taking the total death toll to 44 since Saturday night. The latest deaths took place since Monday night, while 15 others were injured. And according to official reports, besides 44 persons losing their lives, 36 others were reportedly injured in different parts of the state during this period. The ongoing spell of heavy rains has disrupted life in different parts of the state, and the Met Department has forecast heavy rains at isolated places today as well. A Central Water Commission report said that all the major rivers in the state were in a state of spate, including the Ganga. Meanwhile, in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, Chief Minister Pema Khandu drew the attention of the Home Ministry to the unprecedented simultaneous drought and flood situation in different areas of the Siang River Basin. In a letter to the Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh, he sought an assessment of the situation by an interministerial team for further action and precautionary measures. And in Nagaland, an interministerial central team visited the state on Tuesday to assess the damages caused by floods and landslides in the state. Nagaland, remember, has been experiencing heavy rainfall since the month of July, which has caused floods and landslides, which has claimed 12 lives in the state. Meanwhile, in Odisha, an alert has been issued in 26 out of 30 districts of the state due to heavy rains. Let's get you all the international news. First up, news from Japan, where at least 8 people are killed and more than 200 injured in the Japan's deadliest storm in 25 years. The typhoon, which slammed into western Japan on Tuesday, inundated the main international airport, disrupting over 700 flights and land travel as well. Thousands of people were ordered to evacuate their homes amid warnings of high waves, flooding and mudslides. More than 1.6 million households remained without power. In Osaka, Kyoto and in 4 nearby prefectures. And the typhoon Jebi, reportedly the strongest typhoon to hit Japan since 1993, first made landfall in Japan's southwestern island of Shinkoku around noon on Tuesday and again at around 2 p.m. near Kobe. The storm is expected to weaken, however, as it moves northwards. News from Bangkok now, where at a 6-day United Nations climate meet, rich nations were accused of shirking their responsibility for environmental damage. The United Nations climate experts warned that time was running out to save the Paris Climate Agreement. The delegates suggested to finalize a rule book governing the Paris Agreement to address the impacts of climate change. The rule book will have guidelines for the treaty's 197 signatories on how to provide support to the developing countries that are worst affected and manage the impact of climate change. It was concluded that if nations cannot reach an agreement by December summit this year, the Paris Agreement that was carved out in 2015 will be at risk. Remember, US President Donald Trump announced last year that the US was leaving the agreement and has refused to honor a $2 billion pledge. News from Pakistan, where Dr. Arif Alvi, a close ally of Prime Minister Imran Khan and one of the founding members of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, was elected as the new president of Pakistan on Tuesday. Alvi defeated Pakistan People's Party's candidate Aitraz Hassan and the Pakistan Muslim League and nominee Maulana Fazl-ur-Rahman in a three-way contest to become the country's 13th president. Of the 430 votes cast via a secret ballot in the National Assembly and Senate, Alvi received 212 votes. In his victory speech, Alvi thanked Prime Minister Imran Khan for nominating him for such a big responsibility. The newly elected president will take oath of the office on 9th of September. And outgoing President Mamoon Hussein's 5-year tenure ends on 8th of September. Meanwhile, in a jolt to Imran Khan, his advisor on parliamentary affairs has resigned after the anti-graft agency registered a corruption case against him. Sports news now. Felicitation function was organized for the Asian Game athletes at the national capital yesterday. The government felicitated the medal winners with cash awards after the country registered its best ever medal haul in the history of Asian Games. Home Minister Rajnath Singh, Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan and Sports Minister Rajya Singh Rathore were present at the occasion along with other union ministers. And during the event, Rajnath Singh congratulated all the medal winners and praised Sports Minister Rajya Singh Rathore for his commitment and dedication towards developing sports in India. India, remember, registered its best ever haul in the history of Asian Games, bagging 69 medals that included 15 gold, 24 silver medals and 30 bronze medals. And now all the action from the US Open. First up, but speaking about the women's singles, defending champion Sloane Stephens has been knocked out of the US Open in the quarterfinals. The American third seed lost in straight sets to Latvia's A. Sevastova. Serena Williams, who meanwhile advanced to the semi-final of the women's singles event, eyeing her first Grand Slam title since becoming a mother last September. Serena beat Karolina Pliskova 6-4, 6-3 in straight sets. And Sevastova will face Serena Williams in the first Grand Slam semi-final on Thursday. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.